In this video, I'm going to talk about Chris Watts' account of what happened after he killed Shannon. When he's asked about what happened after he killed Shannon, Chris Watts talks again about how he wasn't in his right mind. It's another way to shift the responsibility away from him. Have a listen to this.
When she was gone, it was just like I didn't know what was going on. It's like it was like a traumatic, I don't know what you call it, traumatic event type, and everything. And like I was shaking. I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I had done. I still wasn't in that right state of mind. I don't think like I was in control of what I could think or what I could do at that point in time.
Straight after he says this, his next move is to again try to make sure he's not judged.
Like most people say, like, why don't you just call 911? Why don't you, like, unless you're in that situation, you don't know. We don't know what you would have done. Mm-hmm. It's easy to play Monday morning quarterback.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Like I said, if somebody shoots somebody, you don't know what was going through their mind at that point in time. Mm-hmm. You don't know what you'd have done.
He says that he was wrapping Shannon in a sheet after he'd killed her when Bella came into the room. We don't know if this is true because this is his account, so we don't know if she saw more than that. We don't know if she saw him killing her, or if she only saw him wrapping her in a sheet, or if she didn't see anything and the whole thing was a lie. It could benefit him to pretend that Bella saw what she saw if he wants us to believe that he killed the children because he killed their mother and one of them had seen that. You know, one of them knew that she was dead. But he later admits to a different motive for killing them.
Is it possible that in your mind you didn't want them to suffer throughout their life? Was this like a mercy thing?
I mean, you can say that like after the fact, but it was just like,
You didn't feel like that during it?
I just didn't. I felt like it was just like an anger with Shannon, with everything, that I was just taking it out on everybody that was in front of me that morning.
Yeah.
I mean, kids growing up without their parents, depending on what grandparents or whoever they grew up with, seemed to be fine. But it was just like, it was an anger thing. It was just like.
So it doesn't seem in his interest to just make up that Bella came into the room at that point. And so I think it's likely she did. I hope that she didn't go into the room when he was killing her, and that what he says is true, and that it was after he killed her.
So what happened next?
Bella came in the room.
Is that what happened? Bella came in. What she said?
Oh,
did she hear something? Is that what she came?
Obviously, I think.
Okay.
She would have heard what happened, which suggests that it was loud. It suggests that that before he killed her, she must have been speaking loudly, or that he was speaking loudly, or that they both were. It could be that she had screamed before he did what he was going to do. We don't know.
She walked in as, she's talking up. She was sleeping. Mm-hmm.
We don't know why Bella called out to her mum, whether it was that she had been unsettled by the noise. The noise may have sounded stressful and Bella might have been worried, or it may just have been that she was keen to see her mum because she hadn't seen her for a while because Shannon had been away.
I don't really want to talk about this part, honestly. Okay.
My feeling is that the reason he doesn't want to talk about it anymore is because he knows that it's going to come across as appalling and that he's going to be judged for it. When it comes to whether the children were aware of what was happening or not, he gives different versions of events. First, he says Bella was aware of what was going on.
Did you carry her like this? Did you drag her? How did you do it?
Attempted to attempted to pick her up and pick her up and take her down, but I lost grip after a little while and just had to pull.
Did Bella see you do that? What was Bella saying?
She started crying a little bit. She's like, "What's wrong with Mom?"
And what'd you say that time?
I said, "It just doesn't feel good." She's a smart girl. She didn't know what was going on there.
Mm-hmm. Did she ever touch Shanann? Try and wake her up or anything? No.
She didn't want to see her or ask to see her or anything. And so that initial time, did she see you put Shanann in the truck? So she was kind of following you? Okay.
But then later he says that neither Bella nor Cece were aware of what was going on.
And they were just too little to kind of figure out, right?
Yeah, they didn't know what was going on.
Okay.
My feeling is that he says that they weren't aware because that makes him look better. I do think that they would have been confused. I think Bella would have been very confused because believing at that age that your father could possibly have killed your mother would be extremely hard. So I think that she would have been confused, that she would have known something was not right, and that she would have been very frightened. At first, Chris Watts says that he put Shanann into the truck wrapped in the sheet, and that then Bella got into the car, and then afterwards Cece.
Was Bella alive when you guys got in the truck? Oh, okay. What happened?
I woke back up.
Okay.
When he says that they woke up again, he suggests that they had gone back to sleep. And this contradicts what he later said.
You talked about before that Bella walked in, though, to the bedroom. Can you tell us about that before you left?
Yeah, I was just getting the sheet off the bed, and she had walked in, and she had her little pink blanket with her. She's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong with Mommy?"
And where was Shanann at that point?
Yeah, just pretty much on the bed, but she was face down.
Wrapped in the sheet? What'd you say?
I just said, she doesn't feel good. That's why I tried to carry her downstairs.
Shanann?
Cece wasn't up yet. She was just in her room. She was getting ready to get out of her bed. And then they were just walking around the house. I was put my lunchbox and stuff in the truck, and then grabbed the kids and I put them in the sheet back.
Okay.
The fact that he has admitted to getting his lunch and putting it into the truck shows that he had no intention of the children surviving. Why wouldn't he have been making them lunch? Why would he just be making his own lunch? And the fact that he was in the mindset to take his packed lunch with him says an awful lot. And it paints the exact opposite picture of him as to the one he's trying to get across when he talks about how he was suicidal. I think his later version where he says that Cece woke up while he was pulling Shanann down the stairs, that sounds like it makes sense because that I don't see why he would lie about that. It's a pretty horrific thing to admit to, the fact that she woke up because she heard her mother's dead body being pulled down the stairs.
You didn't have to wake Cece up?
No, there was the noise from trying to get Shanann down the stairs.
Did she kind of fall down the stairs?
No, it was more of like trying to get her down and from the steps, maybe her foot hit the next step kind of thing.
Oh.
They're lifesavers.
I believe him when he says that the children were alive in the truck with Shanann in there. And the reason I believe him, there's a few reasons. One of them is because Shanann's plane was late. And so if he had a dead body on his hands, he would have been in a rush to bury it. He wouldn't want he just wouldn't want to be seen, obviously, anywhere with a dead body. And so I think that the priority would have been burying her before doing anything else. So I think that one of the reasons that they would have been alive in the truck would have been to quickly get Shanann out of the house and away from him, you know, to not be associated with him. With both of them awake, there was the risk that one of them would scream if the other one was killed, and that would be a big risk for him to take with neighbours around. So that's another reason why I think it would make sense that he would have taken them away from the house. I think one of the reasons people doubt that that's true is because it's so horrific, but I also think that Chris Watts is capable of doing that.
And so Shanann, is she kind of on the floor in the back? And they're just on the bench? Okay. And both alive at that point? Okay. Is there any reason you would feel uncomfortable to tell me that they were not alive at that point?
Sure.
Okay.
It sounds like Chris Watts thought the police already knew that the children were alive, because this is what he says next.
Wasn't it a video or anything?
It's hard to see.
There was footage from when he was at the neighbour's house, and the policeman was looking at the footage from the neighbour's CCTV camera, and Chris Watts looked like he was incredibly scared that he was about to get caught. So I think this probably stayed with him, and he probably thought that that people knew, that the police would have seen on that CCTV camera that the children were, that they were walking. You would have seen them in that footage. So I think this could be another reason why he admitted to it, because he thought they knew anyway. He admits that he felt anger when he was killing them all. So that was his mentality, that was his frame of mind. He was feeling anger. He wasn't feeling concerned for them in any way. This wasn't something that happened in a moment of, he didn't suddenly flip and suddenly kill them, in a moment of insanity. He tries to drag out a moment of insanity as if he had it for really what would have been quite a bit over an hour, from killing Shanann, from taking her body down, putting it in the truck, to burying her and killing the children. I mean, that would have taken more than an hour, and he tries to drag out this sense that he was just out of his mind for that entire length of time.
Whatever my reasoning was in my head that day, it wasn't sound. Nothing was right.
And you don't even remember thinking about it?
No, it was like a reaction of something that I wasn't even thinking about.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was just happening so fast. I had no time to really have a thought that was my own.
Okay. What was the reason?
I can't even tell you. It was like I said, like something else was in control of what I was doing, and it was like I was doing something I never thought I would ever do in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I let it get to a point where I've never been angry before. And this was like the epitome of being angry.
Yeah.
The epitome of like showing a rage. The epitome of like losing your mind.
The kind of angry outburst that he wants us to think he had doesn't go on and on for over an hour. That's not how it works, That in that length of time, driving and being able to concentrate on the road for about 3/4 of an hour, you wouldn't be able to stay in that same at that same level of anger, even if you'd been furious 45 minutes before. You can feel angry for that length of time, but not so angry that you're out of your mind. And also when wrapping the body up, taking it down the stairs, putting it in the car, getting his lunch and all of this, you can't do that if you're out of your mind and you can't think.
While they were in the back seat.
So what'd you do?
I put a trash bag on one end and on her feet and on her head, so they didn't have to see.
Okay.
When he gives the reasons why he put the plastic bags on Shannon's head and feet, I don't believe that the reason he did it was to protect his children, because if he was at all concerned about that, he wouldn't have them anywhere near her body. I think part of it may have been to not alarm them if it had become apparent she was dead. So for instance, had her mouth opened or her eyes opened or something like that and they'd realised, then it would have just been harder to manage them, you know, if they'd been screaming while he was driving along or something. So it may have been partly for that reason, and I think also probably the main reason would have been so that if he was stopped, no one would see what was in the truck, you know, those things that would identify her as being a person would be covered up. So I do believe him when he says that he used the plastic bags for that. People have said that they would have been screaming, and I don't think that they would have been screaming because they were very confused. You know, that's what I think. I think they would have been really confused. Obviously, as an adult, if there's a body lying under your feet, you know what's going on, but at that age you believe adults. What her father was saying didn't feel right, because according to Chris Watts himself, you know, she just kept asking about what was wrong with mum. I think in that kind of situation a child will go with their survival instincts. It would have been confusing because you know, if he was just putting her into the car, he wasn't, it sounds like he wasn't sort of in any way being violent towards them, or shouting at them or anything like that. So they wouldn't have had reason to think that they would be next, and they weren't sure what was up with their mother. You know, even Bella, I think that she was, I think she knew that something wasn't right, but it would be hard for her to, you know, 100% believe her mother had died. I think she was very confused and very afraid. And in that kind of situation, you know, I think as a child you would try to survive, and that wouldn't involve screaming. You wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of this adult who seems to be two things at the same time. On the one hand, someone who loves you, who's your father, but on the other hand, someone who it seems has harmed your mother. So I think in the car, for instance, in the truck, I think that they wouldn't have screamed. I think that I think Bella would have been frightened and very quiet, because she doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know if she can trust her father. She wouldn't want to make him angry either.
When we were driving to the site, she said, "Daddy, it smells."
Oh, okay. So that goes back to maybe Shanann evacuating herself.
I don't know if it was that. You know that smell like a skunk maybe sometimes.
Oh,
So
okay.
I got some kind of smell that way. But
I don't think Chris Watts would be lying about this. I think this is more evidence that the girls were alive in the truck, because that's the kind of thing they would say, and saying it only makes him look bad. He tries to look better by what he says now.
I don't know what that was from.
And was that maybe outside the truck, or was that in?
I don't know.
Okay.
He would have known where the smell was coming from, so he's said something and then he's realised, you know, how it paints him, you know, that somebody who is taking a dead body with his children in the truck with it, you know, their own mother. So that's why he then tries to backtrack and say that he doesn't know where the smell was coming from. Chris Watts never talks about what he was thinking on the journey. He never talks about whether he was thinking about you know, if there was some way to not kill his daughters, whether he should drop them somewhere, or he never talks about any sort of uncertainty, and this would be his opportunity to talk about it. If there was any truth that he hadn't planned that he was going to kill them, now would be the time to talk about that. I think that it's a very good thing that he wasn't warned that this interview was going to happen. He had no idea it was happening until it began, so he didn't have time to invent this.
Was it your intent the whole time you were taking the girls out there that you were going to do that to them? Honestly,
It's like when I got there, I didn't think it was gonna, like you talking about the tanks or just.
yeah.
I mean, I just thought process and all this. None of this makes sense. That's why I know you guys keep asking these questions because it doesn't make sense to me.
What did you guys talk about on the way out?
They were pretty quiet. They just laid next to each other.
Okay.
Maybe Bella in her lap and Cece in her lap, just back and forth.
Oh, okay. Just trading off like little ones do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Were they awake?
I think one would kind of fall asleep, the other one, Cece would. They kind of trade off back and forth.
Were they talking to you?
Just about, just saying, "Daddy, it smells."
Oh, okay. So then,
It was early in the morning.
once you get to the site, what happens?
So I get to that one site and I get Shannon out to that. Go over to the part right off the site there.
Okay.
And the girls are still in the truck.
Okay.
Did they ask you what you were doing, taking mommy out, or?
Yeah, I don't remember what I told them, but they did ask that.
What they say specifically?
It was more like, what are you doing to mommy?
Okay.
He said that he then took Shanann and out of the truck and left her outside. I think that he would have buried her at that point, because I think the priority would have been to get rid of any evidence, of the body. So I would think that he would have buried her at that point.
And then is that when you buried her?
Listen to how much he hesitates.
I don't remember if I dug a hole there first but they didn't watch me do that.
Okay.
He tells the interviewers why he brought a can of gas with him in the car.
I think I saw on the video that you put a gas can or something in the back of your truck.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Did you have different plans when you put that in there?
I don't know what was going through my head. I feel like maybe I could just get rid of myself at the same time if I was doing all this, honestly.
Yeah.
Did you think about that?
What'd you think about that?
I didn't feel like I deserved to live after what had happened. I didn't want something like on the site to catch fire and blow up. And then other people around would get hurt in the same.
So you were thinking initially about starting a fire out there or an explosion or something, or?
No, not for that. Just like maybe I could just take care of myself and not have been
Wow.
gasoline. That's the only thing you do. I mean, I don't have a gun. I don't have anything like that. It's not like you just commit suicide that way. But
So just to blow yourself up?
I mean, it was just I wasn't thinking.
If somebody's suicidal, they want to die in a painless way. If you think about the number of people who have burnt themselves to death, I would guess that it's very, very small. There are two that I know of, and both of those were to make a political point, because it's such an excruciating way to die. So if he had been suicidal, he wouldn't have picked that way of dying, and making the excuse that he didn't have a gun just makes absolutely no sense, So I don't believe for a moment anyway that he was suicidal. Nothing about his behaviour after their deaths suggests that. I think he took the gas can because he was considering burning Shannon's body to destroy the evidence. People have said that he was planning to blow up the gas tanks. I mean, that's a possibility. I don't know if he would dare to have done something like that, but I think I think it's probably more likely that he was going to burn Shannon's body like that. I think he ran out of time. His original plan was probably to do that. You know, if her body was burnt and the children were in these really strong chemicals, then all of the evidence would disappear quite quickly. So I think that that was his plan and that this was definitely premeditated. I'm going to leave it there for now and continue in the next video to talk about what happened according to Chris Watts on the morning he killed his family. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and if you are a subscriber, please hit that bell under the video and you will get notifications next time I post a video. Thanks for watching.